Welcome to chapter 12, the presidency and the governor of California. In this section, we're going to go over the qualifications to be president and governor of California, as well as the different type of leadership roles that they play, but also how other leaders in other countries, what's the difference between being president and maybe being Queen of England, and so on and so forth. Okay, so again, we're in chapter 12, and here we go. One of the requirements to be president of the United States is the idea that, first of all, the requirements can be found in Article 2, Section 1 of the Constitution. So let's start off there. The Constitution is literally the basis of all our laws in our country. What some the idea of all of our laws being based on this document, right? So if something's unconstitutional, that means it cannot be a law. Everything has to be fit within the framework of the Constitution. So the idea of the Constitution is to set a baseline, and you cannot be under the baseline. If you're under the baseline, then that means you are in unconstitutional waters. If you're above the baseline, you're within the framework of the Constitution, so therefore the law is allowed to be in place. So when you read your Constitution in Article 2, Section 1 of it, you will see where the role of the president, where it comes from. Now, when we talk about the president, it says no foreign-born naturalized citizen is eligible. Okay? So that means you literally need to be born within the United States, or your parent has to be, at the time of your birth, have to be in service of the nation. So, i.e., your parents have to work for the government in order for you to be considered a naturalized citizen. So if your mom and dad, or your mom works for the State Department in Japan and she has a baby, that you will be qualified to be president of the United States because she was in service of our nation at the time of her giving birth. And what they would say is, even though she was born in Tokyo, it was like you were born on embassy grounds, where if you're on embassy grounds, literally the grounds of that embassy, it belongs to the country that embassy represents. Okay, so if you're in Tokyo and your mother has you and she works for the U.S. Embassy, what they're going to say is, well, it was like you were born on U.S. soil at the embassy, even though you were probably at a hospital or and if you're at a military base, same thing, same qualifications apply. So understand that anytime you're on U.S. property in a foreign country, that makes you a naturalized citizen. Or a U.S. citizen by birth. So I just want to make sure the difference between naturalized. So that means you cannot be born in another country. Arnold Schwarzenegger can never be president, but he could be governor of California. You have to be 35 years old or older. So you have to be at least 35 years old by the time you take the oath of office. Previous occupation, race, gender, religion are insignificant. Now we can say that in theory it's insignificant, but in practice, probably not so much, right? Occupation does matter. How likely are you to vote for the person that was a stripper? So be aware of these things. So we say things like occupation doesn't matter, but occupation does matter. Race, they say doesn't matter. And if you're looking for theory, you can honestly say Barack Obama, because he was president, race does not matter. But we could say gender does matter. We have never had a female president. So again, in theory, it's true. But in practice, when we practice it, maybe not so much. Religion is significant because every U.S. president, even Donald Trump, claims to be a Christian. And again, no matter what you think or what you feel, I thought Barack Obama was a Muslim. It doesn't matter what you think, it's with how he self-identifies. So some people say, well, Donald Trump doesn't act like a Christian. It doesn't matter. He claims to be a Christian, so that's why. So because he's claiming it, now how likely are we to vote for a other type of religion? And most of you will say, oh, I would vote, wouldn't matter. But for a lot of people, it does matter, and it's an issue. And let me be clear, I'm not saying it's an issue for me, but for some people it is an issue. Some people will not vote for somebody who does not claim to be a Christian. That is that's very real in our society in these current times. A citizen of the United States. So you can be foreign born, Arnold Schwarzenegger again, but you have to be a citizen. You have to be qualified to vote. Now, understand when we say qualified, that means you cannot have a felony. But also, you have to be registered to vote. That's a qualification of you voting, especially if you're in California, right? That's the qualification for you to vote is you have to be registered to vote. So that means you have to go to the either to your post office, the DMV county clerk's office, and register to vote. Luckily, in the state of California, currently right now, you have same day voting, so that tends to help out a lot. But you usually stand in long lines on when you do same day voting. You must be a California resident for at least 5 years immediately preceding the election. So that means you can't move it. You can't move to California the day before. You have to literally be a resident of the state in order for you to be governor of our state. So these are the qualifications. But also, if you look at, I think it's harder to be governor of California than it is to be president of the United States. Just think about that. I mean, the qualification, you cannot have a felony in California, but you can if you are running for president. And now, would that hinder somebody's ability to be president? Probably so. It depends on what it is. What is the felony? I'm not saying that, if you got arrested because you were protesting and there was a lot of damage due to the damage and possibly somebody getting hurt in the protest of your civil rights, you might have a felony and you might decide to run for president. People might accept that. I don't know if people will accept that or not. So that might be accepting for people, but for a lot of people it might not be. Next up, we're going to talk about the roles of the presidency, being president. One of the things the president is a chief executive. He enforces laws and federal court decisions, along with treaties which are approved by by the United States Senate. So all treaties have to be approved by the Senate. Okay, understand that. Also, he gets to appoint people like a Secretary of State or Secretary of Defense or Secretary of Education. He gets to appoint them, but again, they have to be approved by the Senate. So it's to your benefit to have your party control the Senate when it comes to that. Also, judgeships, Supreme Court justice, federal court justice, judges, Court of Appeals, all those things fall within the purview of the power of the presidency. Next up is Commander in Chief. He leads the nation's armed forces. He can commit troops for up to 90 days in response to a military threat. And this has to do with the War Powers Resolution, which was enacted during the Vietnam War. Johnson's LBJ, who was the president during that time, had his hands tied when it came to getting things done, getting the right amount of appropriated funds to carry on in this war. So Congress gave him this thing called the War Powers Resolution. He can make secret agreements with other countries, can set up military governments and conquer lands. We saw that recently in the war in Iraq after the downfall of Saddam Hussein. The United States set up a military government in the beginning, and then it transitioned over to civilian government. And so what you see in Iraq today is what was constructed by the United States government, the type of government it is, and so on and so forth. As head of state, he performs ceremonial activities as the personal symbol of the nation. He decorates war heroes, dedicates parks and museums, throws out the first pitch at the baseball season, gets to light the national Christmas tree, and pardons the national Thanksgiving turkey. And he also receives heads of state, foreign heads of states. So when the president of of the Ukraine comes, or the prime minister of the UK, or prime minister of the Netherlands, president of South Africa, the president of Argentina, any of those people come, as a symbol of our nation, the president receives them. He's also the chief diplomat. He directs U.S. foreign policy and is the nation's most important representative in dealing with foreign countries. Gets to negotiate and sign treaties with other nations, which go into effect with Senate approval. Now the treaties are very important, and I kind of mentioned it earlier. Yeah, you always need Senate approval. He makes pacts, which is a little different than trying to get a treaty. A pact is kind of like an executive order, except it's done with foreign governments, and it's like the executive order. What it does is it allows the president to make a, I don't want to say, it's almost like it could be a temporary law, right? The president executive orders or make an executive agreement. Now these only stay in effect as long as that president keeps it in effect, or the next president. The next president can come and rescind that executive agreement. And that's the only thing about executive agreements and executive orders. They only stay in place as long as the next president or the next woman or man wants it to be in place, who is serving in the role as president. Can accept the legitimacy of another country's government, power recognition. So the president has the power to recognize a foreign entity. What's going on in Venezuela right now? The president can recognize the opposition party as the legitimate government of Venezuela. The only thing is that might not be the reality of what's on the ground in Venezuela, right? So the president of the United States has this power recognition, but what's going on the ground is the guy who won the last election, quote, and I'm doing that with air quotes because some people question the validity of that election, is still in control of the government because has connections to the military, so on and so forth. As chief legislator, he informs Congress about the conditions of the country and recommends legislative measures. So the reason why that is important and to understand that is that once a year the president is invited to Congress by the Speaker of the House. Usually it's on the I want to say about the third, so around December of the previous year, the Speaker of the House will invite the president to Congress, right? And it's usually that Tuesday. I would say it's probably the third Tuesday of the month, but there's a significance of why the president's invited to Congress to do a State of the Union. The reason being is by law he has to report to Congress the state of the nation, but he does not have to necessarily give a speech in Congress in the House chamber. But it's been tradition that the Speaker of the House since Wilson that the Speaker of the House invites the president to Congress to give the speech to everyone, and currently it's televised, right? So he gets to televise it, but he can also, and as we saw in 2019, Nancy Pelosi, who was currently the Speaker of the House, sent Donald Trump a letter saying, because government is shut down, where you don't need to necessarily give a speech. By law, you just have to report to Congress. So you can write a speech and just send it to Congress, right? And therefore, you don't have to give a speech. You just have to report it to Congress, and then you can disseminate it to all the media, social media, and people just can read the speech, and you don't have to give it. Well, so it doesn't necessarily have to be coming to Congress, but usually, traditionally, it's to come into Congress. Usually, that third Tuesday of the month. The president gives a speech or sends a letter, and they do it the 3 years after the inauguration, the following years after the inauguration, because usually it falls on Inauguration Day. So the first year the president's inaugurated, usually around February, March of that first year, he goes to Congress and gives a speech, talks about what they want to do. People clap if you're on their side. People don't clap if you're not. Then the following year, around December of that same year, the Speaker of the House will send a letter out to invite the president to Congress to give a speech or to write a letter to report to Congress the state of the nation. And that's how that usually goes. He also gets to suggest budgets to the Congress and submits an annual economic report. So again, that's important. The House and the Senate, the appropriation of funding comes from Congress, from the House representative first, and then it goes to the Senate, and everybody approves it or don't approve it because of how much it could be. You know, we all talk about the debt in our country a lot, but That's usually done. And then as the can veto a bill, it takes 2/3 of Congress to override a veto. So in the House of Representatives, 2/3 is 290. In the Senate is 67. And so that it can be done. It's very rarely done, but it can be done. And as political party leader, he chooses a vice president, and as the political party leader, he's the head of the political party. So right now, if you're the Republican president of the White House, then this person is the head of the Republican Party, and he gets to appoint friends to positions, to top government positions, and party faithful, because you don't have to know them, but and that's called patronage. Everybody does it. So that's not nothing new. It is a form of nepotism. But when people are loyal to you, you want to reward them, and you reward them with positions in government. Tries to execute the party's platform and attends party fundraisers, and may help reelect party members running for office as mayors, governors, and members of Congress. And also you can support a school board. There was in the 2018 election, Barack Obama actually endorsed like a school board member, and people are like, why is he? But you as a former president, you can endorsements are great, and so on, and that's wonderful, especially if you're running for school board and that president is very popular in your community. And political leader. So much like the president, does pretty much all the same things that the president does. Also has appointment power. So your head of your DMV, your political head of the DMV is appointed by the governor. The chancellor of the community college district, not just community college, but your colleges in California, UC, Cal State, and community colleges are appointed by that person's appointed by the governor. He also has judicial influence because he gets to make appointments. He gets to appoint judges to positions. Now in California, let's be clear, some of your judges are elected, others are appointed by your governor, which he has a right to do. Commander in chief of the state militia, or the state militia is the National Guard. The governor controls the National Guard. The only time the president can step in and federalize the National Guard in the state is if a governor is breaking law. And what I mean by break, let's just say the Supreme Court says that separate but equal Brown versus Board of Education is illegal. The president and the governor stands in the schoolhouse door. Let's say we're in Little Rock, Arkansas in 1950 something, and you're Governor Fabbis of Arkansas, and you're saying segregation today, segregation tomorrow, segregation forever. Well, guess what? If I'm Eisenhower and he's disobeying me, what I would do is federalize it, because he's now breaking the law, because the Supreme Court said separate but equal is unconstitutional because it's really not real. And so the president will order the National Guard to go home, and then I'll send in the 101 Army Airborne and to guard the high school. So I remove the state authorities and I put in the federal authorities, and this has happened. But again, the president just cannot fit, because Donald Trump doesn't like Gavin Newsom. No, that's not how it works. It has to be like the law has to be broken. The governor's also legislative leader, again, like the president, makes suggestions, so on and so forth. Works with the assembly and the state senate. And the California Assembly has 80 members. The California State Senate has 40 members. And the assembly members run for 2-year terms, and the senators run for 4, just so you're aware. And just for those of us who don't know, Sacramento is our state capital. When we talk about leadership roles, being president is different than being Queen of England. Queen of England, first of all, is a lifetime term. She's the head of state. So like our president is the head of state, receives foreign dignitaries. Queen Elizabeth is the symbol of the UK, right? God save the Queen. In fact, that's their national anthem is Lily for her. In the United States, again, I kind of explained the president plays many roles. Maybe this is why they started to look older. Start to look older because of the many different roles that they play. Okay, and then so basically that much it. I want to say that's all, folks. And don't forget to start reading your next, make sure you're reading this chapter. Make sure it's important. So make sure you're doing your readings, okay? I look forward to next week's lecture. And so have a great day. Thank you. Bye bye.